Welcome back to the final session of Firewatch Live. I'm Tom DeSorcy, and we're thrilled to have Scott Metzler here for our concluding conversation. Over the past sessions, we've explored many facets of leadership, from risk to trust. And today we're finishing with one of the most powerful ideas. Leadership is the selfless promotion of the growth of others. Mediocre leadership might get us through easy tasks, but it's excellent leadership that drives progress on our biggest challenges. Scott will walk us through the concept of companionate love, the kind of leadership that emerges when you love the work you do, the people you work with, and the people you serve. It's in these moments of selflessness that the real magic of leadership happens. Scott, it's a pleasure once again. How are you today?
Good. Thank you, Tom. Good to be here.
The real magic. There we go. Now we're getting down to the nitty and the gritty, as it were, when the magic happens. And I want to talk about the selfless promotion of others. But how do you know when the magic? Is it a feeling? Is it the what? How do you how can you tell?
Right. That's a great question. And the magic happens, as you suggest, when sort of the stars are aligned, when we as leaders have the willingness, the ability, the wherewithal to invest in the promotion of others' growth, others' success. And so, just like you said, uh, if I love what I do and the people for whom I do the work and the people around me that do the work with me, that's the sweet spot, right? And it's this palpable feeling of forward progress. And so it's different than, I like the people I work with, they're my buddies. It's this idea that we together are creating something that is more than the sum of its parts. We're doing work that's bigger than any of us could do individually, and we're doing it as a team. We're moving, towards this goal of making life better for others.
I'm sure we've used this word before, but I think that a good leader is going to be invested in the actual action of leadership.
Absolutely. And it is important that we get really crystal clear about what good leadership looks like, what excellent leadership looks like. And so, we've talked in the past about this idea that sometimes overtakes us when our ego gets in the way. And so if I am pursuing organizational power or promotion for the reasons of making myself feel good and look good, or perhaps doing less work rather than more work, I would suggest that we're probably not going to be in a position to exercise excellent leadership.
Are you having at some point, and to be that good leader, to be that person that says it's kind of the assessment of how it went. How often? Obviously, you should do that every time, but how hard should you be on yourself when you are doing that assessment?
Right, right. Well, I would say this: leadership can often feel like thankless work. Good leadership can often feel like lonely work. And when we normalize conversations about what leadership is, what it takes to exercise really good transformational leadership that takes us from one place to another, we get that feedback. And so perhaps it's not a formal post-incident analysis kind of feedback, but really this sort of general continual conversation about how we exercise leadership together in the pursuit of our shared goals.
Talk more about the selfless promotion of the growth of the other.
Yeah, yeah. So, we've said more than once during our conversations that good leadership is about investing in other folks. And so, often the things we do to get ourselves promoted aren't the things that make us good leaders. And so, good leaders operate in a dynamic system. And if we're not continually investing in the system, and by that I mean the people who look to us for leadership, the people who agree to go on this journey with us and to contribute their gifts and their skills and their talents towards moving us forward, then we're really not doing very good leadership. That's self-full leadership. And so when I think about selfless leadership, I go back to the story of, good leaders are door holders for other people. And so if I look to you, Tom, for excellent leadership, I would look to you to help me identify opportunities for growth, identify opportunities to stretch into new positions, and for you to support me and help me succeed as I take on those responsibilities. Whether or not I'm a formal leader, whether I want to be a company officer or a fire chief, I just want to exercise leadership better. And so if I look to you for that kind of guidance and support, and you give it to me selflessly, maybe there's nothing in it for you personally. Maybe it comes at a cost for you personally to help me succeed. That's excellent leadership.
So if someone listening to you as a leader is thinking to themselves, and I'm sure that people, when they are listening and reading what you have to tell, that they're imagining, putting themselves in a situation. And for me, it's about when I hear leader, I hear, okay, I'm a leader on a task, it's a fire, it's an event, and I'm leading the team, and we're running to the common goals. But again, you have to consider, I would think, that leadership is you're always, if you're in charge, you're the white hat in the the big L leader. You're always leading, and you're always mentoring, and always helping others to grow. And how do you turn that on and off, I guess, is the question.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I would tend to think about it less as turning it on and turning it off, and more as finding the most appropriate way to exercise leadership in the moment. And so, when we're faced with a crisis situation, that calls for a certain type of leadership. That's typically top down. That's typically the white helmet, making decisions and uh, giving orders. But other times, when things aren't burning down, that calls for a different kind of leadership. It usually calls for multiple different kinds of leadership. And so I don't know that when we agree to step into this kind of sacred space of leadership, that we ever should turn it off, but we should just always sort of keep our head on a swivel, looking for ways to meet people's needs and exercise leadership in ways that help them succeed.
You write about mediocre leadership, and I had fun with this myself. And when I said, we're not saying it's bad, but if you are you are a mediocre leader, it might help on the easy things, but it takes the excellent leader to make progress. Let's explain that.
Yeah, yeah. And another way to think about that is, it's easy to be a leader, a big L leader or a little L leader, when things are going pretty well, right? When the challenges are bite sized, that doesn't take often a lot of skill. That doesn't take a lot of risk. That doesn't take a lot of, stretching into new roles and new ways of thinking about work and new ways of being. But when those challenges are big, when those challenges are adaptive, when they hit us in the heart, when they hit us in the gut, and we just don't know what the right answer is, that's when excellent leaders kind of set themselves apart.
The difference, I mean, you say mediocre, and to me, it's either good or bad. Why the word mediocre? Why not say you're either bad or you're good?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think about the quality of leadership as existing on a continuum. And so, in my experience, as I exercise leadership, at any given point in the day, I'll be somewhere on that continuum between bad leadership, good leadership, someplace in between, and just knowing that it's not an either or, it's kind of an and equation when we're talking about leadership. One of the things that really comes to the forefront of my mind when I think about the quality of leadership, there are times when it's confusing and the next step isn't apparent and we find ourselves at a loss. And so the question is, what's the next best leadership move if I'm not sure what the next step is? And I tend to think the next best leadership move is always to invest in relationship. I don't think we can go wrong when we're investing in relationships with others.
What are the signs, if you will? What is the telltale signs that your leadership may be mediocre?
Right. Sometimes the measuring tape kind of flies under the radar, for lack of a better metaphor. Um, and I think, taking the temperature of a team, um, really looking at the quality of the relationships between the people who are exercising leadership, the people who are looking to you for leadership. Those relationships often are the first sort of sign that things aren't going well, right? And so if people, wherever we exercise leadership, at home, at work, at church, when people are communicating with you, the big L leader, either verbally or non-verbally, that their needs aren't being met, that's often the first sign that we've got some work to do. And so it could be that, I'm not qualified to meet those needs, but I need to be aware of those needs. And I need to create an environment as a leader, especially as an authority figure, in which you can get what you need to keep propelling this team forward.
It seems to me that obviously the real skill is reading yourself, and that self-assessment piece comes into play where you know that you're a mediocre leader, and you again when you say that a mediocre leader, you need to be an excellent leader. Well, no one's going to tell you, I don't think, and there's no one keeping score, no one rating you other than I would think yourself. Is that correct?
On one hand, I would say that's probably correct, and so it gets back to the idea that all leadership starts with self leadership, and in order to exercise leadership, we've got to be self aware. We've got to acknowledge our blind spots, whether we know where they are or not. So we depend on other people to help us with that. But I would submit that, in a firehouse, I've never met firefighters who are shy about telling me, that I'm falling short. And so, normalizing those conversations, being willing to accept that kind of feedback, and then doing something about it. Right. Sometimes we know just what to do. Sometimes, the best next step is to say, "Hey, I get it. It feels like I'm falling short for you folks. Help me figure out what we can do together to make this better." And then I would just say one more thing, and that is, I would be careful about the language of saying he or she or I am a mediocre leader or a great leader or a bad leader, because I just go back to that idea of the continuum. And so it could be that right now in this, specific instance, I'm exercising some pretty mediocre leadership for one reason or another. But if I know that, then I can probably, figure out how to get better.
Is it a is it a deliberate attempt to become an excellent leader, or is it an organic sort of natural thing that takes place over time?
Right, right. Well, I tend to think about leadership, just like any other set of skills. So we can learn it. We can learn to get better. If we don't practice, those skills can atrophy. So it's just like starting an IV. It's just like pumping a fire truck. If we don't continually practice, we're probably going to get rusty. And so, I would also say there are people for whom leadership seems like it comes a little bit, more naturally, and that can be a good thing. But, if that person is me, and it's not, but if it was me, I might be seduced into thinking that I've got it figured out. It comes naturally. I don't have to work at it, and that, I think, is a first step in, being a pretty mediocre leader.
The word of the day is companionate.
Yes.
And I want you to explain that because I'm sure that that word might take a few people by surprise. Well, I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, yeah. So, this, when we start to talk about love, when I drop the L word into a leadership conversation, often it takes people by surprise. And so, this idea of companionate love is in opposition to the compassionate sort of romantic love that we often think about. And so we're not talking about the kind of love that we have to report to the HR department. We're talking about the kind of love for other people, for the mission, for the community that we serve, that keeps us raising the bar. And so if I am a dedicated formal leader for a team, and my job is to make sure that folks have what they need in order for them to succeed, that's going to take some sacrifice. That's going to take work on my part. And if I don't love those folks in some way, that's going to be pretty tough work.
If I would, it would seem to me, and you see, that's when the magic would obviously happen. And again, that's that organic part that to me, I think if you work too hard to create this, it has to happen on its own, I would think.
Yeah, sometimes the best we can do is get the environment right. And you know, if we can figure out how to create a culture in which people are willing to give of themselves for the benefit of others, I think that organic sort of feeling takes hold. But the getting of the environment right is the tough part.
Is companionate love a two-way from leaders to those being led?
I sure think it is. You bet. And so again, you know, this idea of if we are feeding one another the things that we need to continue making progress, to continue to succeed, to continue to grow, that has to be a two-way street. And so, you know, often we talk about the idea that leadership can be lonely. You know, leadership can dry your soul like a stick, and that certainly is true if we don't create sustainable practices of leadership. And those sustainable practices include, again, normalizing conversations about how and why we're exercising leadership with one another.
If you care about the people that you are working with, and I say with because it is a team. You're all partners in this. It's not my way and you're going to do what you're told versus you're going to do what's the best for us as an organization.
Sure, sure. And, you know, often when I talk about distributed leadership, when I talk about companionate love, when I talk about, you know, investing in others, sometimes that sounds like top down leadership is bad and the giving of orders is, you know, not fair. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And so again, there is a time and a place for strong upfront top-down leadership, and there are times and places that we should take other approaches.
The fire service certainly is a family, and for me it would seem a lot easier to have that love for the people that I work with. Uh, can you transfer that to the corporate world? I mean, I don't know that, in the business world or the leader of the company would have that same relationship. Is that the right term?
Hmm. Yeah, and that's an interesting question. And so, you know, I think there's two parts to that story. One is, um, to a degree, I think it is easy to love the folks in our fire service family, but we tend to spend time together. Uh, with shared discomfort. We spend time together between alarms, and it's easy to dislike the people that you spend a lot of time with too. And so, you know, this idea that love is a decision in the workplace, I think is important to sort of surface. The other piece of this is um, those corporate leaders, those nonprofit leaders, those sort of non first responder leaders who get the idea that my job isn't necessarily to be liked. I don't have to be everybody's friend, but I'm here to serve people who are not me. I'm here to make contributions into the success of the people around me who look to me for leadership. The folks who get that, no matter the industry, elevate the quality of leadership for everyone on the team. And so I tend to think that excellent leadership transcends disciplines. If you look, if we know what we're looking for, we'll find it everywhere.
I'm thinking that a corporate leader can learn from the fire service. I mean, it's when we were taught incident command, and I've taught it myself, where you always say that this is a system, and
Right.
you should practice this system in everything you do. And it's become part of my life in terms of just happening to use that system. And you organize an event. You can utilize and plug it into the incident command system. Can you understand where that transfer to the corporate world, if you're a, you could be a paid on call firefighter and being a leader, I would think that gives you some skill set.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that we tend to do a little bit better is to identify those parts and to name things. And so it's tough to teach and use an incident command system or an incident management system if we're not willing to talk about the pieces and the parts and how they fit together. And so when we apply that to a leadership system or leading within a system, again, we're normalizing the conversation. We're building a vocabulary around the behaviors that we expect to deploy with one another, how we agree to treat one another, especially when times are tough. And so in the fire service, sometimes it seems like we might have a leg up there, but I see the same thing happening in almost every organization that I work with. And so, great leaders, again, normalize conversations, invest in other people, often are doing the hard relational work behind the scenes to make sure that their team has what they need to succeed.
Is it all because leaders that are working this way, is it all because they are doing it intently again, or is this just when you can sort of observe and go, this is what you're doing, and this is why you're doing it? Are you intently doing it, or do they actually know they're doing it?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question to ask. Again, there are folks who work hard at this, and there are folks for whom it comes naturally. I think the best leaders are, the folks who might blend those two sort of approaches to leadership. Absolutely.
When you're speaking and presenting to again a group of people, assuming that the audience is mixed, I would think, from actual leaders to soon to be on the way leaders. For those people that are not leaders yet, chances are they are now in the fold. They are now being led. Are you giving them tools to recognize when the leader is mediocre or not doing the job that they should do? Or are you, I'm sure you're passing on some good wisdom to that organization.
Right, right. Sometimes that sort of leads to some delicate conversations. And I just love that because if we can build a space in which we can really talk about leadership, we can name the elephants in the room, those things that everybody knows, but nobody's willing to talk about. When we can get to that point, and people sort of drop their defenses and agree to be, authentic and transparent, boy, those are some great conversations. Absolutely.
Share a little bit. What are you seeing when people come up against and they kind of go, wait a second, this is the person I'm actually working for, and they're not an excellent leader. I'm going to take this back.
Right, right, right. The best conversations happen when those leaders are in the room, and it can be a little uncomfortable at times. But if we're going to grow, if we're going to move forward, if we're going to make progress on tough challenges, we're going to have to make friends with awkward conversations and feelings of discomfort. And so, tools is one of the things that I hope to leave with folks, but also a shared language around leadership is something that is really beneficial to folks. And so, if we can learn how to talk about leadership, if we can assign names to the behaviors, boy, that's a huge step in the right direction when we're all talking about the same thing. And then, tools like self-awareness, learning to let the defenses down and actually hear the message beneath the words at times, especially when we're talking about uncomfortable things. And so, when I can be a part of a conversation like that, I can tell that leadership is strong. It might not be great at this point, but we've got the tools, we've got the language. Hopefully, folks can use those as leverage points to move an organization forward.
You have probably helped many an organization that you don't even know.
I like to think that.
Can a mediocre leader, and I don't think we've used this word, and I will apologize if you don't think it's appropriate, but Can a mediocre leader be a detriment to an organization?
Um, I think so. I think so. Um, you know, if leadership, the exercise of leadership, is ethical and legal and practiced for the sake of moving people forward, I like to think that we can't do a whole lot of harm, right? the the sort of sticking point is often we look to leaders not for vision and not to help move people forward, not to go from the place we are to the place we need to go, which is often scary and uncomfortable and all of those things. Often we look to leaders to exercise authority, to provide us with protection, direction, and order. Those things feel safe. And so, if we're in a time of change and I'm feeling unequal to the task or uncomfortable about my role, or whatever those sort of fearful emotions are that we have around change, and you agree to provide me as a leader with protection, direction, and order, that's going to make me feel safe. That's also going to probably keep us right where we are, right? And so, leaders who are uncomfortable with the concept that leadership is risky, that leadership is uncomfortable, that leadership disappoints people even when we're doing it well, often will tend to fall back into this safe place of authority, which again isn't wrong. That's part of a leader's job. But when we're not helping people move forward, when we're keeping them in this safe cocoon of the status quo, that may be a disservice to the people, even though it feels really good.
When you think you've moved on to excellent leadership, can we assume there is no going back? It's when it comes to the easy things, you said mediocre and the easy things, but wait a second, I'm now an excellent leader, and it's just that's all I can be. Correct?
Um, I don't know about that. I tend to think at the point that we feel like we're there, at the point that we feel like we've got it all figured out, at the point that we feel like, hey, I'm at the top of my game, it could be that the next step is backwards or the next step is downward, and so we just have to keep that in the forefront of our mind, and also remember that on any given day, at any given time, I'm going to fall somewhere on this continuum. And so, even though it seems like I'm exercising excellent leadership today, tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow's a new chance for me to get it right or get it not so right.
From excellent leadership, is there anything beyond that? I mean, you don't go as far as exceptional, or do we kind of just keep it at a point that there's always room for improvement?
Yeah, I do think there's always room for improvement, and I think it is possible to do really good leadership without this concept of love. But when we love the work we do, the people we do it for, the people we do it with, I feel like that is the thing that sort of catapults us to the next level. And so, call it what you will: exemplary leadership, high performance leadership, excellent leadership. I feel like the missing ingredient between good and excellent often is this idea of companionate love.
A companionate leader, is there a companionate follower?
I think there is. I think there is. And so, one of the things we know about leadership is it's tough work. And it's increasingly difficult to pour out of an empty cup. At some point, there's nothing left. And so, companionate follower, someone who follows with love, is someone who might not be afraid to say, hey, boss, I see you're struggling with this decision. Hey, boss, I see that you've been working really hard behind the scenes, and I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. Great job. So, in the best of all worlds, that love flows both ways.
When you love what you do, you love the people you work with and the people you work for, you'll never have to work a day in your life, correct?
I love that.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Tom, thanks very much. This has been great.
And that is a wrap for Firewatch Live. Thanks again, Scott, for guiding us through this incredible journey of leadership. We hope that today's session has left you with a deeper understanding of the selfless nature of great leadership and how, when love for the work and the people is present, remarkable things can happen. It's been an honor to share this series with you, and we hope the lessons from these 10 sessions will inspire your leadership journey for years to come. Bye for now.